Hey everyone, welcome back to Navajo Tea Time. This episode we are talking about bullying.
One, two.
Dang! It's gonna be a good episode.
Okay, so last year we had invited our viewers to suggest topics that were close to their hearts. And there was an individual, her name is Latia. She suggested that we talk about bullying. And this is a topic that I think a lot of parents deal with, people who are in school. I think we've all had a run-in with a bully or being a bully as well. So, I don't know. That's what we're going to talk about today. Oh yeah, so this is a new thing with Navajo Tea Time. We have... We're working on becoming more structured. So we have these cards now to guide our conversation. So why don't you open it up?
How would you define bullying? So for me, I would think of bullying as like doing something intentionally to hurt another person's feelings or physically, to physically hurt them. Like you mean it, you're doing it to hurt them specifically. Mm-hmm. That's how I would think of bullying.
Mm-hmm. And I would think, I think of bullying as people trying to exert their power over others. Whether it's through humiliation, whether it's through the physical act of assaulting somebody. If it's, it's people using tactics to kind of like assert themselves by demeaning others. Mm-hmm. That's what I think of when people talk about bullying.
What does the dictionary say? The definition of bullying is abuse and mistreatment of someone vulnerable by someone stronger, more powerful, etc. And mm-hmm. I guess the action and behavior of a bully was it prone to or categorized by overbearing mistreatment and domination of others. So,
yep, sounds about right.
That's the definition of bullying.
Am I the only one getting flashbacks here? Just kidding. So, my first question is, have you ever been a bully?
Have I ever been a bully? Not in the sense of the way I define the word bullying.
What about the dictionary? What about the dictionary's definition?
I know, in middle school, we didn't get along with other people in our group. Or not group, but middle school drama, Mm-hmm. These people were a different type of clique than us, so we never really got along, and we just kind of, antagonized each other. Mm-hmm. But I think that was, equal, so I wouldn't think of that as bullying. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I was proud of the way I acted, but I was 13, 12. Mm-hmm. And then, but I never went out of my way to, pick on a specific person to demean them.
Yeah.
It was always they did something to antagonize us, so we're going to do something to antagonize them. It was, back and forth. Mm-hmm. In high school, I was very intimidating. Not that I went out of my way to, intimidate a person to bring them down. Mm-hmm. It's just I was intimidating.
I can see that. Just kidding.
I've known of a couple of instances where people were just somewhat scared of me. Mm-hmm. Not that I went out of my way to scare people.
Do you know what they were afraid of?
I remember this one specific time in biology class. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of guys from the baseball team, and the biology teacher was the baseball coach. Mm-hmm. And there was a bunch of us from the dorm or whatever. But I dressed kind of like how I look now. And I would have, these striped socks, too, with, a skirt, so you could see the striped socks. So it was kind of, witchy vibes and everything. And we were doing group work or, partner work, and they turned around, because they sat in front of us, and one of them turned around, and they're like, "Are you a witch?" And I just looked at him, because I'm not a social person, so I don't engage in social conversation. So I'm doing my work, and I look up, I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then he's like, "Oh, never mind," and he just turned around, and I'm like, I don't know what is going on. And so I guess they thought I was witch, and it was really ridiculous because also we had like free time or whatever. He was sitting on, like in science labs they have like those corner counter tables on the wall.
Yeah.
And he jumped down and his pant loop got stuck on the thing, and so like took his pants down with him. I'm like, oh no, I think I did it.
She's a witch. So.
And then there's just other people who just thought we were intimidating, but one of my friend's cousins came by to talk to her cousin, sitting next to me, and then they're like, oh no, I can't believe you actually talked to those girls and those people, and blah blah blah. Like, they're not that scary. They just don't socialize, so they stare at you because they don't know what you're trying to get at.
Yo, their social skills are not developed yet. Give them a break.
So they're just staring at you because they don't know what to do.
Yeah. Like deer in the headlights. So.
Basically, it's just like sitting there glaring at them. It's like, what do you want? What are you doing? I don't know who you are. Why are you talking to me?
I know. I hated.
So I was intimidating, not purposefully trying to like bring people down, but.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember Marilyn Manson had this quote about how people always fear what they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's a dope quote because I felt like it was so true. You know what I mean? Because when I was in high school, I was like, very punk, very goth, and it was outside the norm. And I was treated as such, as if I too was outside the norm and not deserving of the respect of others just because of the way I presented myself in public, which I thought was total BS. And so, yeah.
I guess also one other thing, like, when I was older, and then my younger sister and my younger brother were kind of high school, middle school age, we're being, like, really sarcastic. Me and my family, we're just super sarcastic. We don't, sarcasm. If your family's really sarcastic and sarcastic with each other, it's just second nature to talk to people like that. And then my younger brother's like, isn't that kind of bullying? And I'm like, I don't know.
You're not in a family setting.
But you can bully people, like, in your family and whatnot. But it's like, is being sarcastic bullying? I was like, I don't know. Maybe if it's a fair exchange, it's not bullying.
I mean, if you're doing it, like, for the purpose of pulling other people's if you're doing it just to, like, pick on them and tease them, that's one thing. But I think if you're actually, like, your whole intent is to take away their power so that you're above them in some way. And I don't think families often do that. At least not healthy families. You're all... Never mind. Scratch that.
What's a healthy family?
I know, let's not go there. Okay, so have I ever been bullied? Yes. And it was always just because of, like, misunderstandings or me not willing to conform to the rules that, other people were creating, which to me is like BS. I mean, this is like kids creating BS rules that they want you to follow. And I'm just like, no, you're a kid. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. And, and like, for real, like, I remember, like, in 3rd grade. So this group of girls, so I was in, these accelerated classes in 3rd grade. And a lot of the girls who were in my classes, we were kind of like the top scorers in our grade, like test-wise. And we were put in accelerated level classes just because, I don't know.
Accelerated.
Yeah, and so, but they took that to heart, like, we're better than other people. You know what I mean? And they took it very seriously. And me, I was just like, I don't know why I'm here. Just kidding.
Trying to be all humble.
Trying to be all humble, but no, I mean, when you're smart, you know what I mean? And when your interests lie outside those of others that are, like, my interests were, like, in 3rd grade, I was obsessed with, like, the civil rights movement. You know what I mean? Like, Martin Luther King was my idol, and Malcolm X was, like, my idol. And I was really into, like, classic art and music, and I was always reading up on, like, Pablo Picasso, Vincent van Gogh, you know what I mean? I was really interested in that, and no one was telling me to be. It was just there, and that, because of that, and my curiosity, it caused me to ask questions that maybe other third graders weren't asking, or write about things that other people weren't writing about. And it was like that with these other kids too, but what they took from it, rather than like, we're getting a great education or we're getting other opportunities, it was more like, we're better than everybody else. And so these girls were like, we don't like this. There was this one girl, I'm not going to say her name, but her name started with a C. They're like, we don't like C, you know, and I would talk to her, and I'm just like, why not? And they're like, well, because she's like this and she's like that. And I'm just like, well, she's always been nice to me, so. And they were like, well, we don't like her and we're going to do this to her. And I was just like, no. So I didn't partake in it. And what that did is it shifted the attention toward me, where it was like, oh, well, maybe you're like her, so we're going to treat you as such. And they wouldn't invite me to like birthday parties. They wouldn't like include me in certain things. And it just felt really crappy because my best friend at the time, she fit in well with this group, and it pulled us apart. Like, my two best friends, they were, like, we had a great friendship, and because of all that tension that was just in our classroom, it, like, pulled us apart, and it made me really, at the time I was young, so I was, like, embittered by it, you know what I mean, because I wished my friends would have been, like, I wish they would have stood up for me, or did something more where I could be included, you know what I mean? And that kind of carried on through like 4th and then 5th and then 6th. And I didn't like it, so I kind of opted out of those classes. But like my teachers and my family kept trying to push me back in. And today I wish I would have pursued it and gone back into those classes, because I kind of went in and out. But if I had probably stayed in, I definitely would have had more opportunities for college. But I didn't, because I just didn't want to deal with those people. And you know who you are. Ew, just kidding. I think in junior high, I stopped caring about that stuff. In middle school, it was just ridiculous. Like, girls would try to... So I went into these other normal classes. And in the normal classes, it seemed like the girls there were they weren't stuck up, but they were like crabs in a bucket. You know, like tearing one another down so that they could like assert themselves as above within the social ladder, where we're all kind of at the bottom. And I'm just like, for me, I was like, this is stupid. And so they would try to like start fights on the playground. And I remember in 5th grade, they tried to put me up against this one girl who was known for fighting. Like, she was a bully. And they were like, she doesn't like you and she wants to fight you. And I'm just like, why? You know, I don't even know her. And so what they did was they pit me against her. They told her that I was saying stuff about her. And I was like, no, I'm not. And she was like, you know, I'm going to beat you up, you know. And I was like, great. So I remember when the day came, like, I think everyone just wanted to see me get beat up. That's what it felt like. It felt like my whole class wanted me to get beat up. And I remember she was waiting by this big tree, and there were all these people. They kind of just like, they were like, she's out there waiting for you, let's go. And I'm just like, I don't want to fight. I don't know how to fight, you know what I mean? And so she was waiting. I walked out to meet her, and that girl looked mean, you know. She was like bigger than me, and she was like, I knew she was strong. She had a reputation for beating up girls. And I was just like, man, I don't want to do this. And like, you know, people were taunting me. And I went up to her and I just told her, like, I didn't say anything about you. Like, I looked her right in her face, and I was like, I didn't say anything about you, and I'm not going to fight you. And I just turned around and walked away. And everyone was just like, what the hell, you know? And they started, like, yelling at me, like, get back over here, you know, are you a chicken? You're scared. And I was just like, and I was waiting for her to run up behind me and just, like, push me down. But she didn't. And I walked away, and I went back inside, and I remember just, like, I shut the door, and I saw, like, she wasn't coming after me. No one was. And I was just like, you know, like, oh, thank God. And it was scary, but I was like, oh, well, okay, this is an option. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just tell the truth. And maybe they'll, like, just being upfront and honest with someone will diffuse the situation. And so, you know, I knew that you can't talk trash about people, otherwise they're going to want to go after you, especially at the school I went to. So I made it a point never to do that. And so as I got older, people realized like, oh, like she's nice. She's not going to do that. You know what I mean? And through like in 6th grade, I got in a fight with a boy in my class. And he was like, I don't know, all the boys are trying to be gangsters in 6th grade for some reason. Like, they wanted to pretend they were in gangs. And I'm just like, y'all are kids. You know what I mean? Like, you're freaking kids. But they're all trying to be hard and stuff. And I was just like, oh, this is so dumb. And everyone was lying about being in gangs. And so I remember this one boy was like trying to be all hard in front of me. And I was like talking mad trash to him because I hate when boys talk down on me. And when they do, I'll just go off on them. Like, I'll use all the brain power I have to just like put them in their place. And he hit me. He hit me in the face. And I just went after him like a mad dog. Like, I went nuts on him. And he was all like crying in class. And he was like, boys. He was talking crap to me though, and you know, like, and I used to get in trouble like in 6th grade and 7th grade, like, because I hated when boys talk trash to me. You know what I mean? I didn't like them making fun of me. And boys are mean when they're younger. They'll say anything, you know. They'll make fun of your weight. They'll make fun of your hair. They used to make fun of my teeth. They used to make fun of my clothes. And then the girls, the mean girls that were in school with me, they would make up lies about me. Like, I had this a Superwoman shirt that I used to wear. It was black and had a silver logo. And they used to say something to me like, oh, she's a super, you know? And I hated that because, like, at the time I was like, first of all, I'm in 7th grade. Second of all, I don't have a boyfriend. Third of all, I've never done any of the stuff some of you guys are doing. You know what I mean? And, you know, like, I was, like, super pure. Like, I grew up in a strict home, so I wasn't allowed to, like, you know, like, run wild and do crazy things. I wasn't given those opportunities. So I was very supervised, I guess. And so when girls would say that about me, I knew it was just to, like, attack me. And I couldn't say nothing because I was just like, I don't want to fight you. This is dumb. But there was this girl, she was my cousin. And she was, like, really strong. And everyone was afraid of her. And I told her, like, I was like, I'm freaking sick of these girls talking about me like this and trying to spread rumors about me. Because what it does, it's almost like making it okay for other people, especially boys, to look at me in ways that I don't want them looking at me. You know what I mean? I don't want that kind of attention. So she was like, if you ever need anything, just let me know and I'll handle it. So I had her on my side, and I started making friends with, like, some of the really strong mean girls. And if anyone was messing with me, I would just tell them. And they'd have my back. And so I didn't have to get into any fights after that because my cousin was scary. Yeah. And some of the other girls that actually were in gangs that were really crazy, like, they would probably beat you to an inch of your life. You know what I mean? They were my friends. So I would just have to tell them, like, you know, this person's messing with me and I didn't deserve it. Because they would ask me, like, what did you do? And I'm like, nothing. And they knew me. They knew me. They knew that I didn't lie. They knew that they could trust my word. And they knew that I could, like, you know, pay it back one way or another. You know what I mean? Because I would, like, write their papers or something. So it's good to be smart. It's good to have a little extra skills and negotiation ability. But that's how I manage bullies. Because I was bullied. And it sucked. But I found a way to, get out of it.
I know, like, when we first moved back here, like, I was in 3rd grade, and my younger brother, he was really tiny for his age. Like, he was really small. And he would get bullied by the other kids, because he was kind of light-complected and everything. And I would beat the boys up for him. And since we were young, my mom's had us in Taekwondo and stuff, so I knew how to fight. I know how to defend myself. I know how to fight.
Yeah.
And so I would defend him. I would always defend him. And that's one thing, I'd always defend my younger brother from bullies and things. And maybe that's what intimidated people to not bully me. It's like, oh, she'll fight back.
Yeah, and I didn't really answer the question. Like,
no, you didn't. Have you
ever been a bully? I don't think I've ever been a bully, but I know I've been mean. And I know I've been catty. Like, there was this one girl in 7th grade who was, she had braces, and she used to always drool a lot. She'd be like when she talked. And she was kind of chubby too, and me and my best friend were kind of mean to her. We used to call her Earthquake. And when she would walk by, we would all shake our desks.
Okay, that's bullying.
So mean.
That's bullying.
We didn't do it every time.
That's bullying.
We did it like 2 or 3 times.
The intent to hurt her and be mean.
So mean.
That's
and then all the boys would do it too.
See, it was bullying.
We were awful. Yeah, and that was in our homeroom class. And people knew that, I don't know what was wrong with us. So that's what I did. And then in high school, there was this other group of kids too that I'm really sad to say we would call them the nobodies, because they weren't, their rank within the social ladder was like at the bottom. And it's because they had no style. They weren't in any sports or clubs. They didn't ever exhibit any kind of talent. They weren't like the highest scoring on tests. You know what I mean? They were just kind of like, and we would call them the nobodies. And it was so mean, because you shouldn't be saying that. And I remember one time, like, the queen of the nobodies, she was at a parade, and I was there, and this is after we had grown up. And I went back home, and I was at the parade for homecoming. And this bus went by, and they're throwing like candy everywhere. And she was there with her husband and their kids. And she made way for my son. And she made sure that he got candy and was able. And I was just like, dang, you know, like, I wasn't nice to her. You know what I mean? I should have, I wasn't nice to her. I didn't go out of my way ever to just make a space. I just kind of was like everyone else and kind of just ignored her. And yeah, that, like, I remember just standing there just like, I'm a jerk. You know what I mean? Like, dang, like, I was a jerk. And I wasn't intentionally mean to her. I wasn't ever trying to like exert myself over her, but even just in my mind, I was thinking like she was labeled, and I labeled her, and that's my bad. So yeah, I think I have been a bully. And I think if you were to ask certain people who I went to school with, they might say, yeah, she did this or she did that. Because I know there's one girl particularly, she used to be one of my best friends in junior high. And then in high school, and I don't recall this, but she tells me that in PE one time I hit her in the face with a hockey stick. And I don't remember that. But she was like, you did that. And I was like, dang, like, what did you do to me that day? Because I probably did, shoot. Because I used to have anger issues, I was going through a lot. Ew. But yeah, so I think, yeah, there are definitely times some people probably would say that. And as I got older, I was still mean to boys, like I used to protect my sister, my younger sisters, my younger brother, anyone that messed with them, I would fight them. And so, and if I had to, I would, call in other people to take care of business if anyone messed with my family. And so, like, in that way, maybe, but for me, it was more like I was protecting them. I wasn't actually targeting people, like, trying to make them feel bad. You know what I mean?
You know what you're doing? My brother says this all the time sometimes. You're rationalizing, which means you know it was wrong, so you're trying to make it sound right.
No. No, like,
you're rationalizing it as you were protecting your family. Yes, that's what you were doing, but it's still, like you said, exerting power and dominance over them. So it's still a form of bullying.
Yeah.
But now you're rationalizing it to make yourself feel better. And that's okay, because people grow and people learn, and the fact that you're going back and reflecting is like, it might not have been the best thing to do, and everything. And it's okay if you were a bully. It's okay. You're learning, But people grow out of it and they learn from it, and everyone's a stupid kid. Everyone's been a stupid kid sometimes. Like, I look back at the way I acted in middle school, and I'm like, I was such a brat, and I was so mean to these other people just because their style was different than me. They listened to different music, although they kind of didn't, but it was like, We were the teacher's kids, the doctor's kids.
Yeah.
And so we got lumped together, and then also I'm part white, and some of my other friends were white, and so we got bullied for not being full-blooded Navajo.
I think I do rationalize my bad behavior because I just kind of block it, like, whatever. But there were times that I was really aggressive, but it was for a good reason. And I stand by making the right choice in that instance. Like, for example, no, one time there was this guy, he brought this girl to a party, and she was like 14 years old, and he was like way older. Like, I think he was like in his 20s.
Yeah.
And he brought a 14-year-old girl, and I was just like, what the hell? And I was like, what are you doing here to her? You know, what are you doing here? Like, you're too young to be here. Like, you shouldn't. I was too young to be there. You know what I mean? I was like, probably like 16, 17. But this girl, to me, she just looked so young. And she was like, you know, he brought me out here, and I just want to go home. And so I was like, so I took her, and I was like, get in my car, wait for me, we'll take you home. And so I hid her in my car, and he came back, and he was like, where is she, you know? And I was like, dude, like, you shouldn't have brought that girl here. Like, number one, she's afraid. Number two, I know what you're thinking. You just want to get her drunk and take advantage of her. And he was like, you know, like, that's my girlfriend. I'm like, she's too young to be a girlfriend, you know? And he got mad. And so, and he like, he was trying to like fight me. And my friends were there, my guy friends were there, and they were like, you know, like, get away from her, leave her alone. And he had a bottle, and he broke it, and he swung it at me, and he slit my wrist.
Oh no.
Yeah, and because I blocked it, and it slit my wrist. And we just went after him. And then I took that girl home. And I told her, like, don't be hanging around with these, like, dirty guys, you know what I mean, that want to bring you to parties and get you drunk. Like, you got to take care of yourself, you know? Like, I don't want to see you out here again, or I'm going to beat you up. And she was like, okay, and I never saw her at a party again. Because I was like, you're too young. Like,
well, see, that's not bullying, that's defending someone.
That's what I'm saying.
But you were talking about other instances.
That was in, like, junior high. I grew out of that by high school. I wasn't bullying nobody in high school. But in junior high, of course, you're in middle school, you're stupid, you're petty. I mean, 7th grade. This is all 7th grade stuff. And my best friend at the time can attest to this because she was there and she took part in it. But we were awful.
I mean, like, what do they say? Like, children are the worst. They're tiny little sociopaths until they learn empathy and learn, you know, basic humanity. But
and we react too. We react to our surroundings. We react to those around us, and sometimes we fold to social pressure. You know, and we're not like at the point where we're like, we know who we are. We're like, we know our values, and you know what I mean? Like, some of us aren't like that. It takes maturity to get to that level. So yeah. So anyways, that's those two topics.
Okay, one thing I wanted to talk about with like the bullying stuff is like, one thing my younger sister said. So my younger sister's the youngest of 5, and she said her friends, when they finally got to junior high and high school and everything, she's like, yeah, Cassidy, we used to pick on you and bully you a lot, but you never got hurt and you never got mad. She's like, really? Because that's how we teased her at home, I guess, you know? Like, yeah. So she didn't take it as someone being malicious to her. She's like, oh, this is how my family jokes and teases me. This is normal.
I thought we were hanging out. Dang, poor thing. So,
like, that is kind of like... I don't know. That's like when I think like, you know, like bullying with your. We've never hurt her intentionally, you know, to bring her down. But she's like, oh, this is how people tease, and that's one thing. Like, I feel like with natives a lot, especially within their own family members, is like we tease people a lot, and if you react and start getting mad, they tease you even more.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes I had to like step in for like my younger brothers and like the youngest ones. I'm like, stop it! They're taking it to the heart, and and you gotta know when to stop and when to realize you have to adjust yourself to how they're reacting. Because even if you were teased worse, it doesn't mean they're taking it the same way, because people are different.
Yeah. And me and my siblings were relentless, you know, to one another. And, like, it resulted in a lot of slammed doors and, like, things like brushes being thrown. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we were nuts, especially when we were younger. And then as we got into high school, you know, we matured, we became more, like, we're more cool, we looked out for one another. But when we were kids, we were kind of awful. But not all the time, just every now and then.
Yeah, it's siblings, you know, sometimes you hate them, and other times you're, like, beating someone to defend their honor.
Always, yeah. I know, seriously, like, I would take on anyone from, you know...
It's like I can hurt my siblings, but don't you dare hurt my sibling.
Yeah, I used to say that all the time in high school. I'm like, I can treat them like that, but you can't. You know what I mean? That's, like, so toxic. You know, it's horrible.
It's extremely toxic, but you know, like, they're your sibling.
Yeah, I mean...
It's so weird to get into, like, family dynamics.
Why are we like this?
Generational trauma.
I know. Who do I blame for this? Ew, just kidding. Ugly.
Well, like, I guess for me, the only person I ever felt personally bullied by was my older brother. Because, I don't know, he always called me fat. Even though I don't know, looking back, I'm like, I wasn't fat. But he always called me fat, so I always thought I was fat. And I'm like, that just hurts. But
my brother was mean to me, too. He would always tell me I was ugly, and he used to always tell me he hated my hair. Like, you need to fix your hair, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. And, like, he would always comment on my appearance, and I was just like, get over here, you know? Like, you little punk, you know? And, like,
well, like, you're the older one, right?
Yeah, and he would, like, just talk trash sometimes.
But he was my older brother. So
see, that's different. That's different.
It's a different power dynamic there.
Yeah, that's,
you know?
I know. I'm the eldest, so I didn't have any of that. Like, I can't remember anyone in my family personally bullying me, so I think that means I was the bully, right?
I don't know.
Y'all, if you were personally hurt by this person, raise your hand.
You were personally victimized by Adrian Lerma.
Well, if I ever hit you in the face with a hockey stick, I'm sorry. I really am. I don't remember doing that, But if, like, I ever hurt you, seriously, like, I apologize. I'm a different person now. I've been working on myself for the past 20 years.
So the next thing, like, my mom being a teacher and everything, she obviously goes through all, like, these trainings and, like, how to deal with bullying and everything. And there's one thing that she says that, like, a lot of parents don't like to hear. And it's that the bullying behavior starts at home.
Yeah.
It starts at home. Like, the children learn from their parents, from their grandparents, from their older siblings, from their uncles and aunts, and everyone in their house, in their lives, how to deal with a situation. So, like, if the kid's first instinct is to hit someone, that's probably what they saw at home. Or if, like, they just start yelling and screaming and, you know, going at someone that they disagree with, or, like, you know, someone took their crayon, and so they start screaming and yelling and punching, that's probably what they see at home.
Dang. Yeah.
And it's kind of hard for parents to hear that and see that mirror of themselves. And I know for me personally, I have a short fuse. No, I have a long fuse, but when it's out, it's out. Okay, it's a big explosion. And I know I have anger issues, and I get mad really intensely, and I have to hold that back a lot. Especially if me and my husband disagree on something. I get annoyed by little things, like chewing. I think it's called, like, misophonia or whatever. Yeah. People chewing. I used to just snap at my husband, but now that Frankie's here, I'd be like, I gotta calmly talk. I'm like, hey, can you close your mouth while you eat, please?
Smacking your gums together.
You know, like, because it gets irritating really fast, and you just want to, like, stop it! I mean, okay, no, gotta talk this out, because the little one's watching, and they're gonna mimic, and they're gonna imitate. And I feel kind of proud of myself because of the way Frankie deals with situations.
Really?
Yes, she uses her words.
Aww.
Because I know when she came out of the womb, she was a biter, and she was a fighter, and, like, you know.
She was a fighter.
She was, like, she was 2 weeks old, and she just, like, bit my mom's chin. Because my mom was teasing her, and she's like, I was like, what the heck? And, like,
so, not today, Grandma. Dang.
She's like a couple weeks old, and she's already throwing fists and biting people. But that was her first instinct. And my mom's like, if I didn't see it the moment she was born that her first instinct was to bite and punch people, I would have blamed you, Kelsey. I'm like,
wow.
Thanks, Mom. Nope, that was her first instinct, was to throw fists, you know?
Oh my goodness.
But right now, she's like, she stops and she talks and she's like, hey, I don't like that, or like, hey, you're making me sad, or she uses her words. So I feel proud that I was able to control that within myself.
I'm proud of my daughter too, because like I remember my kids are talking about the bullies in their school, and my son was telling his story, and my daughter was like, you know how I deal with bullies? And he's like, how? Because he just internalizes it, and it upsets him. He doesn't do anything back to them. But he was saying that, but it hurt him, And so my daughter was like, you know how I deal with bullies? And he's like, how? And she was like, they'll be talking to me and saying things to me, and I'll just look them in the eye and say, I don't care what you think about me. I'm like, dang! That's like her response to anyone who tries to like ridicule her or talk down to her. She's just like, I don't care what you think. And I'm like, that's dope. Like, that's my daughter. Like, I taught her that. Just kidding. No, but like, that's the kind of confidence that I had to work to acquire, over time. It took me years, and she's like, ahead of me in that way, and I'm just like so proud of her. And she said when the boys pick on her, and she does this, and this is something I didn't do until later as well, but they'll be picking on her, and she doesn't let them pick on her. She'll like turn the table on them, and she'll just start irritating them. Like, she'll annoy them enough so that they'll stop, and they'll just leave her alone because they don't want her to pick on them. And I'm just like, good job. Yeah, let them feel like she's not mean to them. She doesn't talk down on them. She'll just like irritate them to the point where they're like, forget you. You know what I mean?
You're not worth it.
You're not worth this. Yeah, like you're too, like now you're getting on my nerves. You know what I mean? And so that's her tactic, and I think it's so funny.
So like dealing with bullies, like I remember my younger brother Taylor, he had this cousin. Well, again, everyone in this area, they're like your cousins or a cousin of a cousin, So his cousin would always bully him and would always pick on him and tease him and everything. And like my youngest brother Taylor, he's the sweetest sweetheart ever. He's made of sugar. If he cries, he's gonna melt and everything. Okay, everyone knows he's the sweetest little guy. He's 6 feet tall, but he's the sweetest little teddy bear ever. And he just got sick and tired of this guy, So he just went bop. Straight to the face, knocked him out cold. And I think that was like his sophomore year of high school or whatever. And then after that, the guy's like, oh, don't pick on Taylor. Taylor's going to knock you out. One punch. It's like this guy, he thought he could just keep picking on him until he fought back. And that doesn't work for everybody. You have to know how to punch. Like I said, my mom had us in, self-defense classes since we were very young. And it depends on the person. They were cousins, so they had that family bond, of like picking on people. But then also my youngest sister Cassidy, she was in Head Start or whatever, and this one boy, he like pushed her over or something. They was like, "Oh no, Cassidy, are you okay? Are you okay?" She's like, "I'm fine, I'm fine." She just brushed it off and walked away, and no one saw what happened. All we know is the kid was crying. And Cassidy was walking away.
Interesting.
So with Cassidy, she's not upfront about it, but she'll get you eventually if she feels like you're being mean to her.
Dang. I know, there were these boys that were picking on my son, and they just like would kind of exclude him, and he was just like, he would be like upset about it, and they were picking on him one time. And they had this jogathon at his school, and when they competed, he outran all the boys in his class, and he earned their respect like that. Because they were doing like 5, 7, 10 laps, and he did 13. And like after that, like he got their respect. Because they learned like, oh, he's not weak. You know what I mean? Like he can run faster and longer than all of us. And he said that there was a shift after that in his class. And I was like, that's cool. You know what I mean? And I was telling him, like, sometimes you have to do that. You have to earn people's respect. And it's not always with violence. You know what I mean? There's other ways to do it. And so I think that's good to know for those who are being bullied or for those who are being bullies. There's other ways to assert yourself that have nothing to do with violence, have nothing to do with putting people down. You know, sometimes you just gotta outperform others. And I learned that, like, that's where all my confidence comes from, is, like, I know my own ability. But that's, like, me as an adult, you know, like a full-grown adult. Like, that's where I'm at now, and it took a long time to get there.
I think one of the benefits of, like, going to high school at the dormitory, well, for me, I was, like, always in a new school every couple of years. We moved around a lot when I was younger, so, like, I was always, like, the new kid. I never had, like, you said, like, you know, you get friends 2, 3, 4 years. I never really had that until, like, 5th grade, when we settled down and stopped moving everywhere into junior high. But then I got, like, that itch of, like, I need to wipe the slate clean. I didn't like who I was in middle school after a while. I was like, I'm just going to go to a new school. I filled out all the paperwork to go to Flag High. And I feel like going to the dorm and being stuck with the people you have to go to school with, it creates a bond, and it brings, like, a different kind of community that's not family, but also, like, these students. There's 20 in your grade, you know?
Wow.
So you all go to school together. You're all, like, they're all basically your sisters. And so you have 20 other sisters with you at school.
Wow.
And so you might not all have the same likes or the same clubs or everything, but you're all together. And sometimes it's isolating, but then also it's like, I don't have to prove myself to all these other students because I have these other kids at home with me to grow with and, like, you know, do study stuff with.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I feel like with me and you, like, we have, like, the high school, like, oh, I have this high school experience. And I'm always like, can't relate.
Yeah, it's totally different. Like, I went to a public school and I was a day student. So way different than having to live with these people. Because I think it might have been different. I think for, like, those of us who had quarrels or whatever, maybe we would have learned to get along.
Yeah, because, like, you fight at school, then you have to go home, and then, like, they're there at your dinner table, they live the next room over. It's like, there's no point fighting with them.
Yeah.
You're stuck with them 24/7.
Yeah.
And, you know, you learn that there's more depth to people.
Yeah.
Because you see who they are at school, and then you also see them who they are at home. You know, when they're relaxing, they're chilling out. Like, it breaks down the stereotypes of students when you're living with them.
Yeah. I know I had one bully in high school, and I kind of ignored her for the most part just because I was like, she's a psycho, you know? I'm not going to give it any energy. And she would, like, yell things at me at school, like, in the hallways, try to embarrass me. Like, she would yell really vulgar things, and I was just like, I think she has a mental disorder. You know? Like, I wouldn't give it energy. I would just be like, I think she has a mental disorder. Like, she's crazy. And she was behaving like she was crazy. But she would, like, intentionally do things. Like, one time she stole my purse. She tried to steal my purse. And we got into, like, a back and forth. Because I'm like, what are you doing? Another time she threw a drink at me. And I was walking with my friends. And it messed up my hair and it pissed me off. But I was just like, leave it alone. You know what I mean? And she would, like, do things, like, every single day. And I was just like, I don't like this girl. She's awful. But I didn't want to fight. You know what I mean? I was like, I didn't want to get in trouble. I was already, like, not on the best terms with, like, the people at my school. I used to get in trouble all the time for things. Because, like, just, like, the group I hung out with, we were kind of, like, there was this group of skaters that I hung out with, and we used to go skate, like, at the tennis courts or, like, around town, and we're just a nuisance, so people didn't like us. A lot of punk rockers that were in bands, and sometimes I would, like, perform with them, sometimes I didn't, but I was always a fan, you know, I was always in the crowd, going to shows. I hung out with a bunch of kids that would, like, you know, smoke cigarettes during lunchtime and instead of eating, you know what I mean? So it was like, we weren't really, like, we were always seen as, like, the troublemakers or the rebels or, like, just kind of like the outsiders. And I was fine with that. We were all fine with that. We weren't trying to impress nobody. But because of that, that carries with you this reputation that maybe you're not the best. And so, like, you're always gonna take the fall. Even if it's someone else who's doing something, you get blamed. Like, we used to get blamed for everything. Like, we even made it into the newspaper one time. Yeah, and we used to get blamed for stuff we didn't even do. And so I had to be careful. And I remember, like, just trying to, like, walk on eggshells, you know, and not bring more trouble to me than was necessary. But so I kind of, like, I remember going home one time. I was just so fed up because I was finally getting to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta face her. And so I told my brother, and I was like, I need to learn how to like fight, like really fight. Because before, like, it was more like me protecting myself, and it was almost like a blind kind of reaction in a fight. It wasn't calculated. There was no training there, you know? And so in the fights I had gotten into before that, it was just very amateur. But I wanted to have some skill. So we started sparring every day. We would spar, and he would like throw real punches at me. And he was like, if you can't take a punch, and you get into a fight, you're gonna end up getting hurt. You know what I mean? So we got tough. He kind of toughened me up like that, you know, like I learned how to take a punch. I learned how to block. I learned how to, you know, bob and weave. We would run, you know, we would go running all the time. We would do sit-ups and push-ups. I started taking weight training classes because I was like, I'm going to go after this girl. I'm tired of being bullied by this girl, and I'm going to teach her a lesson, and she'll leave me alone. That's all I was thinking about. So I was like pumping iron, like all my senior year, because I let it go all these years. But my senior year, I had had enough because she had successfully taken my best friend away from me, and it like hurt my heart. And she lied. She straight lied about me, and my friend was like stupid and believed her. And so I was just really betrayed and disappointed, and I was just like, I gotta end this now. So I was all training, you know, and like literally like training every single day just to be like strong and fast. And I remember like the day came when I was at McDonald's, and she was there with this other girl, and I was with my friend, and she was talking all this trash to me, you know, like in front of everybody. And I was just like, I just want to eat my food. But she didn't know that I was training. So I had a cup of water, and I just like threw it like perfectly accurate right into her face. And it went poof, and like all that water came down on her, and the cup flew, and I was just like, meet me outside. You know what I mean? Like we're handling this today. And I was so serious, and she just looked like stunned. And then the manager comes out, and she's like, both of you get out of here, you know? So we got kicked out of McDonald's, and she got in her truck, and she took off. And I got in my ride, and I started following her. And we were like chasing each other all over town. And
they're going in a circle. There's no town.
No, there's all these back roads. Anyways, so she had a truck and I had a car, so she got away on the back roads. And I was just like, and after that, I was just like, I told her, like, I was like, I'm not afraid of you, you know? And I told her to her face, I'm not afraid of you. Let's take care of this. And after that, she kind of stayed away from me. She wouldn't come near me. And I think she saw that I was serious. And so we never actually fought. But she started to stay away from me. And she tried to find other ways to get at me, but I was kind of like beyond that at this point. You know what I mean? I kind of put this shield around myself that was pretty impenetrable. You know, like no one could hurt me at that time. Like I was so guarded. I had hardened myself so much that no matter what anyone said or did, I was just like, whatever, that's on you. You know what I mean? Like, if you do something to try to hurt me, like, whatever. And I noticed that, like, it would just bounce off me. And she would find herself in situations that probably weren't the most flattering situations or best situations for her. And I was just like, whatever, you got yourself there. You know what I mean? And people started to, like, people who knew me, they would get in front of me and her. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't let her come near me. And that was really nice. So now, she's one of those girls that's always posting, like, spiritual scriptures from the Bible. And she's, like, an awful human being. She's, like, the worst human being.
Bullying!
She is, though. But she pretends now to be, like, this, like, born-again, saved Christian. And, like, always posting Bible scriptures, and I'm like, you're an awful woman. But I don't know, I'm just like, I leave her alone. I don't talk about her. I'm not going to say her name, but you know who you are. And a lot of people know who you are because you're awful. What do you regret and what did you learn?
Like I said, like, in middle school is when I kind of stopped moving around. We kind of decided to put roots down and live somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I don't regret the friends I had. I just regret how cliquey I was.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, we are these people. This is the stuff we do, and we can't hang out with other people who are different. Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, I used to have other friends who weren't that core group, and they would always, like, give me, like, side eyes or, like, weird glances. They're like, why are you hanging out with that person? I'm like, I like them. They're my friend. Mm-hmm. And I'd still do that. Like, sometimes I would purposely not eat lunch with my main group of friends and eat lunch with them because I liked hanging out with them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like, middle school, people got really, like, cliquey. It's embarrassing to think about. And the reasons why you didn't hang out with people were so stupid and weird. Mm-hmm. And it's so cringy looking back on it. You know, like when you watch a middle school TV show and you're not in middle school anymore, you're like, these kids are so stupid. And then you're the same way. And it just shows you they're not adults. They can't make decisions on their own. They need somebody's help.
Seriously. Oh my God.
And they're not going to listen to you, even though you're right. Because I was like, whatever, Mom, you don't know what you're talking about. But
I think what I regret is, like, that group that I mentioned that we called the Nobodies. I wish that I regret not being open, kind, or communicative like I probably should have been. Because I was just, it's like I let myself become a part of the problem. You know what I mean? Rather than, and I mean, it wasn't my place to make sure everyone in high school got along, but it was just like, I don't know, the reason why I regret it is because one of the girls that was a part of the Nobodies, she ended up hanging herself. And it was so shocking because we didn't find out till later that she was, like, getting abused at home. And so the reason why she wasn't out there, you know, like, performing for the world or asserting her place was because she was going through stuff at home that no one knew about, was really bad and dark. And when you're going through that, like, all that other stuff is just BS. You know what I mean? And I wasn't thinking about that. You know, I never really thought about what other people were going through at home. What kind of house they lived in, what kind of household they came from, what kind of parents they had. And it was just a lack of empathy on my part that I blame on immaturity. But at the same time, there were really great people that I know of that were genuinely kind and did have empathy at my age and younger. So that's not really a good excuse. So that's what I regret, just not being more empathetic and, like, thinking beyond what was right in front of me. You know what I mean? When I was younger. Because I never thought about what other people are going through outside of school. I did not care. I was just like, I got my own stuff. You know what I mean? So,
well, you know, that's a part of being an adolescent. And that's why you're not supposed to drink or make any, you know, grown-up decisions.
I mean, we all make crazy decisions when we're younger, but I think, like, yeah, so anyways, what I learned, though, is that, like, now as an adult, or, like, even, like, you know, before now, like, for the past many years after high school, I really, like, after that happened, I started to think more about how I treat people, and I did this really cringy thing, my senior year. I wrote letters to, like, a bunch of people, and I apologized for things, and I wanted, you know, people who I wanted to stay in contact with, I let them know, like, I hope we don't lose our connection or lose our friendship as we move on to this next phase of life, because it really did feel like the end of an era. You know, when I was graduating, it felt like I was never going to see these people again, or because for me, I just wanted to get away from it as far as possible and try something new, like try to build a life for myself that wasn't ruled by my parents or ruled by my teachers or ruled by all the dumb kids that I grew up with. I wanted to start new and do something new, and I did. But, yeah, that was, like, something I kind of, like, could sense it. Like, things are going to change in a big way. And so I did that. And there's probably people that still have those letters. I don't know. I know some people, they save things in shoe boxes and they keep them for a long time. Because I've seen one of those and I'm just like, oh, that's so embarrassing. But I just felt like I had to do that because it sucks when you're like, when people start passing away. And that started happening, you know, when I was in high school. So I was just like, all right, let's fix this and let's move on with a clean slate. And so I did, and some people I still keep in contact with, but a lot of them I don't. I don't even see them anymore. I see them, like, at IHS. You know what I mean? When I go to an appointment or something, I'm like, oh, hey, how are you? Or at bashes during the holidays, or at the fair. And I'm like, oh, cool, how are you? You know, or at the parade.
Well, what did I learn? I think growing up more, I remember in high school, there's one thing I used to say all the time, because people would ask me my opinions, and, you know, an introvert, they don't like small talk or whatever, but if they have something to say to you, they'll say it point blank, and sometimes I could be very blunt, and people be like, you're mean. I'm like, I never said I was nice, and that was my response. And I love that energy. So I try to keep that up. It's like, I'm not trying to pretend to be somebody, you know? And sometimes I go back inside my shell and, like, be the candy-coated person people think I am. And then I'm like, you know what? No, this isn't me. I'm not nice.
Oh my God.
You know, I'm nurturing, I'm caring, I'm empathetic, but I'm not nice. I'm not gonna make things nice for people.
I know. I remember one time someone was trying to, like, intimidate me in a boardroom, and I remember just looking at this person like, you don't know me, and you don't know what I'm capable of. Like, you need to chill.
Like,
yeah.
So that's just one thing, like, I learned over the years of, like, you know, people are gonna like you or they're not gonna like you.
Yeah.
And I'd rather not have to pretend to be somebody I'm not and enjoy the things I like doing. And sometimes when I say something, it's not nice and I don't pretend to be a nice person.
Yeah. I know. I think, like, I don't know. I've always believed that if someone tells you they're nice, they're not. If someone tells you, like, oh, I'm a great guy, he's not a great guy. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's gonna tell you something about themselves, it's probably BS. And I've learned to listen to what other people say about that person. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like what I do now. Like, I don't listen to nothing anyone says. I'm like, oh, you think you're like this, or you think you're like that? Like, wow. I'm just like, I don't believe you.
Well, before Adrian gets on a tangent about other things,
I will too.
I'm gonna go off some topics I got about psychology we didn't really touch on. So this is just some facts I got from a website called onlinepsychology.info. And so this is what they had to say about bullying. Bullying is an act done to a person to feel a certain way. The act is meant to harm, intimidate, or coerce someone. And then it says, parents play a massive role in bullying. Children learn everything they know from their parents or guardians. One reason being that when a parent is harsh or aggressive with their child, they essentially mold how to be a bully. So, you know, like, how you treat your kid and how they react is the same way. They mimic. Children mimic.
Children mimic a parent's model, right?
Yeah. Children mimic, you know, the people around them, everything, you know. So you're teaching them how to react to things. And it basically said, like, this could either make the child more of a bully or, like in my sister's case, get bullied and not really realize it because she's used to it. Sorry, Cassidy. We love you with all our hearts. And then it says, like, bullying is not normal aggression. So, like, the example Adrian gave of, like, hiding that girl and protecting her, that's not bullying. That's a normal aggressive action. And it's bullying is not the run-of-the-mill aggression. Bullying is targeted and repeated.
That's the thing, too. The repeat, yeah.
It's repetitive.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna yell at you because I was mad at you. That's not bullying. That's a reaction. Whether
if it's like an everyday thing or a constant thing, like that awful girl I told you about. She was a bully by definition.
And many kids in high school experience, or many kids in school experience bullying. And it says psychologically speaking, when with these experiences happen at such a young age, they can be quite significant depending on a child's life outside of school. They may be a bully in school, they may be a victim of bullying, and this can have long-term effects on both sides. So again, it goes back to your home life. If they have a nice, solid foundation at home life, bullying shouldn't, be that big of a hindrance. I don't know.
Yeah,
not like hindrance,
I mean, you ever meet those kids that have like a really wholesome life, and they're not bringing all that toxicity to the room? I've met a few people like that. I've met a few people like that.
I know.
They're just like, you know what I mean? And their kids are just like, they're kind. They have manners. I don't know. They're just not bringing all this toxicity to any kind of situation. They're just kind of chill. It's like, wow, like how did you become like that? Like, I don't understand, because I grew up, like, I don't know, like, I think about my family, the school I went to, and I'm just like, ugh, so much. But anyways.
Okay, and the last thing...
I don't know any wholesome people. Horrible. Oh my gosh.
Anyways, so it says the best way to handle bully is avoidance. And it says if a bully is not successful getting through to their victim, it is likely that they will stop being persistent. A bully will be intimidated if the children is surrounded by good friends. Another way to handle a bully for children is through parenting tactics. If a parent raises a strong and confident child, this will help them stand up for themselves. A bully will have a hard time making someone a victim if the child knows how they should and shouldn't be treated.
Yeah.
But like I said, these aren't hard, solid rules. Because there's so many ways to get bullied. There's online bullying. There's in-person bullying. There's, like, the weird shunning bullying. Where, like, people just get shunned.
That was, yeah. I was watching this comedy show, and this guy was, like, making fun of younger folks that are suffering from, like, online bullying. Or, like, virtual bullies. And he was like, I just don't he was like, back in my day, we had real bullies that pulled real wedgies up our real butts. I was like, oh God.
Yeah, but like,
Yeah, I know online bullying's a real thing.
Especially like when kids, like my aunt brought this up, she tries to limit her granddaughter's screen time, because it releases the same dopamines and good feeling chemicals in the brain as like any other great stimulant, and they get addicted to the screen. So when they're addicted to the screen and there's somebody bullying them, they have to keep going back to the screen. They keep going back to see the bullying, and that's hard.
Yeah.
And it like online bullying is it's new, but it's not new. You know what I mean? Like, it started when I was young, and now people are like, oh, this is something we probably have rules for, but we still don't, because it's so hard to, like, how do you manage a bully online? Like, are they an adult? Are they a child?
Yeah, and there's laws that prevent, like, adult interaction with people who are minors. So it's like, what do you do in that situation? On top of that, too, like, I think online bullying is mostly, like, people weaponizing content. You know what I mean? Or utilizing content to try to, like, attack other people online to either...
Or it's just, like, constant harassment, like, constantly messaging them, or creating fake accounts to keep messaging them, and, like, sending hurtful messages to them constantly. And then, like, if they're addicted to their phones and their screens and their social media, they're going to keep going back, and they're going to keep seeing those hurtful messages.
They'll keep getting alerted if they have their notifications on. It's like... This person doesn't like you. Guess what? That's like the first comments we ever got was from an online troll, huh? Do you remember that 666 guy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was out for blood for Navajo Tea Time. And we're just like, what do we do about this guy? We're just like, It was funny.
And then, like, you're not talking back. I'm gonna go. Like, okay.
I know, Kelsey's like all ready to engage, and I'm just like, let's just ignore him and block him. He's stupid. So, yeah, that was funny. Okay.
A quick wrap up.
Wrap up.
Wrap up. So, you know, like...
Your wascally wrap.
I feel like my favorite quote about bullying is from Paranorman. And it's like, it's always going to be there, and you just have to learn how to deal with it. You have to teach your children how to deal with it. It might take some looking in the mirror and figuring out how you, as a parent, as a person, can better your reactions to things and how to make your child better. Yeah. And I think that goes into generational healing in a way. Is like, you need to do better than your parents did, and you need to learn how to cope and manage your own toxic traits so you don't pass them down to your children.
Yeah. It really does all come around to, like, taking a good look at ourselves, huh? Like, how can we do this better? Because otherwise you're just... If we don't do that, then our kids are just going to continue, like, making the mistakes that we made and causing pain to other people, hurting other people. So, yeah. I mean, I would be really disappointed if my kids behaved the way I did. Honestly. I would. So, I don't know. I'm doing my best to, like, not model those toxic behaviors. Like, I don't bully my kids because I don't want them to bully others. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't... Yeah, so... Good luck with all of that, parents.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment down below, you know, if Adrian Lerma has personally victimized you.
Shut up. You're the worst. She's the worst.
Or, you know, like, how did you overcome your bullying, or were you a bully and you realized it, and, you know, if you just want to say you're sorry, go ahead.
If you want to apologize to me, comment down below. You know who you are.
Now they're not going to comment.
I know. They're like, F you, Adrian. I'm just kidding. Thank you guys for watching this video. We appreciate it, and I think it's important to have these important conversations, as hard as they may be and as embarrassing as they may be, because there are people out there that will pour salt on a wound.
I'm not nice. I never said I was.
I never said I was. Okay, I'm done.
Alright, bye. Go to Happy Accidents Buy Me a Coffee account for an exclusive hot tea video going live March 30th. Links in the descriptions below.